Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, we're talking Khabib Nurmagomedov. Two reasons why Khabib is arguably the greatest of all time. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Before getting started, make sure to like, subscribe, click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. Whether you like the style or not, as of late, wrestlers, especially Dagestani style of wrestling, has been dominating the world of UFC. Greatest example of that is obviously Khabib Nurmagomedov. We have a current champion in the name of Islam Makhachev, and another current champion that got influenced by the Dagestani style of wrestling, and that's Belal Muhammad. We have a new upcoming talent in the bantamweight division in the name of Umar Nurmagomedov, which is perhaps the next challenger for that bantamweight title, and has a very high chance of actually capturing that title. Obviously, the style has been effective, dominant at times, but when we say dominant, there's only one name pops into mind, not only in that style of fighting, but in the world of combat sports, period. Obviously, here we're talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov. Two reasons why I think Khabib is arguably the greatest of all time. First and foremost is obviously his undefeated record. Nobody was able to take that away from Khabib. There were fights where he had a bit of trouble, like the Quinta fight. And that's the only fight that I can actually think of in his UFC career where he actually looked like he was somewhat a bit challenged. And that was a late replacement, Madison Square Garden, at that time, where Tony Ferguson couldn't make it to the fight. Quinta steps in and gives Khabib Nurmagomedov the toughest fight of his UFC career, and obviously Khabib was still able to win that fight. Retired undefeated. He also retired at the age of 32, arguably in his prime. And that's something that's never been done before, especially in mixed martial arts. I do understand that Umar Nurmagomedov is perhaps the next undefeated champion that might retire undefeated. There has been plans made for Umar to surpass Khabib's record and retire undefeated. I wish the guy the best, but we're asking him a very difficult task. In the world of mixed martial arts, it is extremely difficult not to get handed losses. And Khabib, not only has he never lost in the UFC or anywhere in his MMA career, professional MMA career, but he's never been challenged. There hasn't been a single round where Khabib has been dominated. So not only is the guy undefeated, but Chael Sonnen likes to talk about this a lot. He breaks fights down into rounds, which I can pretty much see what the logic behind that, because technically each round is a different fight, right? So even if we were to take that into consideration, Khabib Nurmagomedov never been dominated. So not only has he never lost a fight, the guy never lost a round, right? 29-0. Number two, and I think is perhaps what makes the guy special, the mindset, the mentality, the stoicism of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Obviously, that's infectious in many different ways. People want to be around this guy, train around this guy, and greatest example of that is, the fruits of Khabib's labor is Belal Muhammad. Just being around Khabib for a training camp, and you see the result It's not to take anything away from Bilal Muhammad prior to training with Khabib, but he really left Leon Edwards no chance the night of UFC 304 when he took the title from Edwards by implementing the Dagestani style of wrestling. So, on top of being undefeated, we have a guy that has a unbreakable, unshakable mindset. And that's what makes the character Khabib. Not only is he a great fighter, but he's just very stoic in his ways. I mean, that's the only word that I can think of describing the dude. And this is a phenomenal thing for a fighter because, in all honesty, any warrior for that matter, because the guy has the ability to control his emotions, even when he was provoked to the max, obviously by Conor McGregor. He has the ability and the mindset really to pass any opponent, and obviously that's always been the case in his career. Not only that, we have a guy that's now influencing generations of new champions. I believe it's his other cousin that's a champion in Bellator. I believe the lightweight division. That one is Usman Nurmagomedov. Recently defended his title in San Diego. It was an event that took place in San Diego, California, Bellator event. And obviously we have Islam Makhachev, current lightweight champion in UFC. We also have Bilal Muhammad, obviously, who's influenced by a Khabib Nurmagomedov, and his style was clearly evident night of UFC 304 against Leon Edwards. And obviously we have the other cousin of Khabib, Umar Nurmagomedov, who's possibly the next challenger for that bantamweight title. So Umar versus Dvilashvili is perhaps an inevitable fight. This fight will happen if everything goes to plan, that is. So three active champions. This is the influence of Khabib and the mindset. And perhaps a fourth in the making, and it's just spectacular to say the least. I mean, the Dagestanis in general took the world of UFC by storm, specifically Khabib Nurmagomedov. Specifically Khabib. So that's why I think this guy is arguably the greatest of all time, taking into consideration George St. Pierre, John Jones, Anderson Silva, and you name whatever name you choose to insert. Obviously, St. Pierre been defeated, Silva been defeated. Jones never been defeated, though. Jones has had fights where he's actually lost rounds. Dominic Reyes fight. First Alexander Gustafsson fight. So there were times, I do understand that he's never lost. DQ does not count as a loss, my personal opinion. And I hope for the UFC to change that on his record. But generally speaking, John Jones never lost. But he has had fights where he looked a bit shaky. But Khabib always looked dominant aside from the Al Quinta fight, which was a last-minute replacement for a Tony Ferguson, the fight that was supposed to happen 5 times. But fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, that fight did not happen. Obviously, we're looking at Tony Ferguson in 2024. Looking back in retrospect, that wasn't always the case. This is obviously not always the case for Tony Ferguson. At a certain point, this guy was called Il Kukui. I still like to call him that because I cannot forget his fantastic performances, just because he had a few bad ones. But during those times, Tony Ferguson was obviously the interim lightweight champion, and he was terrorizing guys in fighting terms in that lightweight division. That being said, being undefeated and having a unshakable, unbreakable mindset is precisely why I think Khabib Nurmagomedov is the greatest of all time. And not only has this guy has influence as a fighter, but as a coach, his influence is clearly evident. There are multiple active champions that have either practiced in the same practice room and it got influenced by Khabib, or they directly practice and are trained by Khabib. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and like, subscribe for more.